What's going on, people? It's Mr. Back Again with Door Meets, and I've got a special guest, an ex-Nottingham Forest player, Christian Edwards. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Yourself?
I'm not too bad. Almost the pandemic's over, so almost football fans can go. How are you doing, anyway?
I'm pretty good, thank you. Yeah, home, working, busy, 3 kids, all homeschooling, wife's in school teaching. So yeah, pretty good, hectic life, but it's good.
Busy man then. Busy man.
Yeah, very busy, but enjoyable and good and safe and well.
That's good. So let's start, Christian. I want to talk about Forest, but I'll talk about Swansea later on. But let's talk about Forest. When did you know that Forest was interested in you?
It would have probably been around about the September before I actually went to Forest in the March.
Yeah.
There'd been some rumours circulating about Forest interest. I actually went up to Forest for about a week on trial beforehand, and then I ended up going back. Yeah, I ended up going back to Swansea, and then the move became inevitable when in the old days when deadline day finished in March. So I signed on deadline day, March '98.
Yeah, was it Dave Bassett as manager that?
Dave Bassett was manager. Had very little to do with him, but yeah, Dave was the manager. I played for the Wales 21s the night before up in Scotland. Yeah. And after the game, I was told, "Don't go back to Swansea. Pick up the car in the airport at Heathrow and drive straight up to Nottingham." So that's what I did. And played against. Sorry, actually, it was Wales B. Actually, not Wales 21s. It was Wales B against Scotland B. Got thumped 4-1. Ian Jess played for Scotland that night.
Ex-former Forest player.
Yeah, who came on to be a teammate of mine. Yeah, so it was interesting. So I flew back with the squad to Heathrow, jumped in the car and drove then up to Nottingham. I'd never been to Nottingham before, didn't have a clue where I was going, just headed straight up the M1 and arrived, and it was pretty much done, signed and delivered on that day. And then I jumped in the car and then drove back to Wales, back home, and went in the next day to Swansea, said goodbye to all the players. Forest gave me until the Monday, so I think that was the Wednesday I signed or the Thursday I signed, and Forest said just be back here for training on a Monday. So I packed all my stuff into the back of my car and ended up staying at the Hilton Hotel over towards, I think, the east side of Nottingham for a few weeks, for more than a few weeks, few months.
Was it hard? Like you played? I've looked at you played so many games at Swansea, then coming to Nottingham. Was it easy to adjust, or was it difficult?
It was something I wanted. It was the moves that I wanted to leave because I aspired to play at a higher level. Yeah. And it was hard because I had some personal circumstances. My grandfather passed away on the day I signed for Forest. When I arrived back in Wales, my grandfather had died, so I didn't get a chance to tell him. So that was initially quite tough. But you know, the guys at Forest were really welcoming, and some big name players in that group in '98. And yeah, it was quite simple. It was just getting used to it. I knew I wasn't going to play as regular as I had been. You know, I was regular every single week for Swansea, 120 odd games before I'd left to play for Forest. So it was always about making sure I developed as a player and settled in really nice. I loved Nottingham. I thought it was the best city ever. Really, really enjoyed it. I ended up moving out towards Bingham Way and lived out that way, and then moved a little bit further out as my time at Forest stayed. But I absolutely loved the place. It was brilliant.
Was it like your first training session? Like I seen that there was quite a lot of Welsh players there. You had Dean Saunders, Mark Crossley, Andy Johnson. So was it easy for you, your first training session, to get to know people more? Yeah,
whilst they were Welsh, I didn't really know them.
Did you?
No, and you know, John was not really Welsh. He's from Bristol, and Mark Crossley's from Yorkshire. So you know, Dean Saunders, yes, is Welsh, but I didn't know them. I knew no one. I knew no one at Forest. So, but that's part and parcel of learning. That's the part and parcel of growing up. That's the part and parcel of being a football player. If you're going to move around, you get to meet new people. I'm quite a sociable type of person, so I got to know them quite quickly. I suppose I was more overawed by them, really. When you got Colin Cooper, Steve Stone, Piers Morgan, Chris Bart-Williams, just to name but a few, Dave Besson, Mark Crosley, Crosley is a Norm Sorry is a Forest legend, Steve Chettle, some really big names to this that I'd looked up to, I'd seen on the television, and then to be in that squad was like, wow, quite daunting. So I was probably like a sponge, just trying to take things on board, listening, taking things on board. I knew I wasn't going to play those players in front of me. Colin Cooper, for example, I wasn't going to shift him out of the team straight away. So it was just a learning curve, and enjoyable one. Looking back, probably didn't take on board as much as I should have.
Yeah.
But then again, that's being a youngster and growing up.
So fast forward, like I said, you didn't play much that season, did you? Like you went on loan as well, played 3 games.
Yeah, so I joined in the March, and it was the season that Forest had won the championship, and it's a cancer really. So I watched from afar, watched from the stands, just took it all in, just to see what it was like. And I'd been playing in League One with Swansea, and then to step into the Premier League, to be part of a Premier League squad, whatever ability, whether you're a youth team player or an academy player or a reserve team player, to be part of a Premier League club is pretty special. So no, I didn't play much that season. I think I made the squad about 20 times, played 12 games that season.
That was under Ron Atkinson, wasn't it, in the Premier League?
More so under Ron. It's ironic. Yeah, I travelled a few times with the first team under Dave, and I made my debut. Spurs away, lost 2-0. Came on for Craig Armstrong at half time, and thought I actually did all right. You know, even though we lost 2-0. David Ginola sat on the ball on the left wing. You know, he's trying to take the mick in the game, but that's what it was like. And I really, really enjoyed the experience. That's something that I wanted more of. And I arrived home. We arrived back in Nottingham. It was my birthday. I remember that. I arrived back in Nottingham and got a phone call from Mickey Adams saying, "Well done today, but you're going on loan on Monday." I said, "Am I?" He said, "Yeah, you're going on loan to Bristol City." Wow. I was like, "Oh, right, brilliant." So I didn't know how to take that. You know, do I take it as well done, but you're not good enough, or you know, you're off down the road straight away? But you know, it was told in a way that we have cover, and we wanted you to go and develop your game in the Championship, which is what I did. It was quite nice actually, because it was to Bristol City. They're a Championship club, a big Championship club as well. Yeah. And it was a move back at Christmas. So I spent the 4 weeks back in Wales, travelling back and forward to Bristol City every day, and it really did me a world of good. I got to the hustle and bustle of the Championship with some good quality players, and it put me in good stead because, when unfortunately, obviously for Dave, he left, and Big Ron came in. And as we all know with Big Ron, he was a character. And he wasn't afraid, and I benefited from that. You know,
what was it like with you? What was it like with you? Because I spoke to Chris Bott-Williams. He wasn't that nice to him, but what was he like with you?
I was a young 22-year-old centre half that could head it and kick it. I wasn't, a Premier League player in a mould that you see them, but he just embraced me. He said, "You're young, you're fresh, and you give us something." And I played, I think, I was involved for 12 games from January to the end of the season. So I can't really fault him. You know, he was a character. He was quirky. He was different. But I liked him. I think most of the boys did. He did some quirky things with us. I remember we played Liverpool at home. We drew 2-2. He took us away to Belton Woods to stay away for 2 days, thinking that would calm the boys down. It didn't. It was 2 nights away from home in a hotel. You can imagine what that's like. So he just did quirky things. I'll never forget the day he walked in the dressing room. I'm sure lads have told this story before, but never forget the day he walked in the dressing room with his robe wrapped around himself, his slippers on.
Yes, he did.
And then hairdryer. Where do I blow dry my hair? I'm thinking, this ain't right at all. But that's him. He was a character. He joined in the 5-a-sides. I remember him in the 5-a-sides. It was his way or no way. It was his rules. Get on with it. I remember him once telling a player that they had an energy crisis, and he was different. But he's managed Atletico Madrid. He's managed Manchester United. So he had that respect for him. He really did. He had a bit of a fallout with Pierre, but that's football. That's when 2 big characters clash, unfortunately.
Yeah. So we fast forward. Like I said, Forest get relegated to Division 1. That's like what it was. But then David Platt come in, and I was looking at you played a lot under Platt, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. It was interesting because, again, I suffered with an injury when Platty first took over, and I was out for probably the best part of 8 months. So his first season in charge, I pretty much missed all of the season. It was the following season then, his second year in charge, that I think I played 37
games. 37 games you played.
Yeah. So I know a lot of Forest fans are not really enamoured by Platty, but I can't fault him. He was brilliant for me.
It was weird because it was like when I spoke to Tank, Alan Rogers, Chris Bott-Williams, and they said exactly the same. Like they said, as you know, David Platt wasn't good with Forest fans, but yourself, he just said Platt wasn't that bad as a manager.
No, he wasn't. He had a group of players, as you said. He had Tank, he had Andy Johnson, Tony Vaughan, myself, Gary Jones, Dave Besant, Andy Gray, Dougie Friedman, Chris Bart-Williams. He had David Johnson, Jim Brennan, Matty Louis-Jean.
Yeah.
All the lads, all around about 25, 26, other than Bess, who was like 65 when he carried on playing. But he had a good core group of young lads who worked for him, and he respected us. I think he respected who we were. And I couldn't fault him. He rewarded me with a new contract, so obviously I'm going to like him. But yeah, he brought modern trends of football to Forest before people even realised. The stuff that some of the training we were doing at Forest before when he arrived was just what people say that we're doing now. It's fantastic. He's probably our best trainer. And I forget the day he brought his best mate in. Gianluca Vialli came in to train. That was incredible. Yeah, he brought him in to train one day.
Okay, what do you like?
Unbelievable. Well, he was David Platt's best mate, and Gianluca Vialli. You just look at him, but he was incredible. Absolutely incredible at training. So you got those experiences from David, and I signed a new contract under him, and unfortunately, he went away and left that summer. Which, if I'd known, I'm probably not sure would have happened for me, because without a contract, it wasn't that I was being stubborn with the contract. I'd played a lot that season, and I just wanted kind of to be valued by the club. Just wanted a contract that I thought I deserved. I was never asking to be kind of the highest paid player of the club, far from it. But so I got that contract. I didn't say David left in that summer, but he was brilliant. Boys loved him. We had a mad group back then. We partied with the Tuesday club. I'm about to talk about, because believe me, there's quite a lot of questions about that, because when I put that yesterday, there's loads of questions. But that season, can you remember the goals that you scored in that season? Yeah, I was 3 and 5 at one point. It was incredible.
I looked at it yesterday and I thought, there's a moment that you scored against Sheffield United. The one in front of the seat going. What was it like, that goal?
Somebody sent it to me a few years later. That picture, it was Blackburn. It was ironic because we played Blackburn that day. Mark Hughes was playing up front for Blackburn, and he was part-time manager of Wales, and he was selecting the Welsh squad that day. So he was announcing the Welsh squad, and I'd been in the Welsh squad as a youngster. I got my debut at 18, 19, and I hadn't been in the Welsh squad for a while. So we played Blackburn that day at the City Ground. We won 2-1, and I scored the winner. I can't remember if it was late on, the header, but I definitely scored the winner. I remember running off to the Trent end and sliding on my knees.
Yeah, you did.
And somebody caught that picture of me sliding on my knees. And my best mate at Forest was Andy Johnson. And his hair behind me, he'd shaved his hair off the night before, a couple of days previous. So somebody sent me that picture, and I still got it in a frame upstairs. Yeah, I used to have all my stuff up on the walls when I lived on my own, but now I've got kids. They're down. They're all their pictures these days. So they're in the loft, and it's really, I love that. That was a great goal to score. And I think it was Sheffield United, Gillingham, I think it was, maybe at home. I think it was Gillingham at home.
It was.
Tranmere at home, somewhere, and then it was the Blackburn.
No, it was Grimsby.
Grimsby, black and white, that's it. Yeah, Grimsby, yeah. So I was on fire for a while, but it was a centre half. I recognised my best place was trying to stop them rather than anything. But
it was funny because, like I said, when I spent you scoring goals, and Chris Williams, he was top scorer as well for centre back, and as well. I remember that season we played 3 at the back. It was yourself, Chris Williams, and Tony Vaughan, and. What was it weird? You had Chris Williams next to you.
Well, as everyone knows, Bartman's got great feet. He's a left foot, right foot. He didn't know the difference, and he's a quality player. But again, this is where I say about David. He was the head of the game. He decided to play a 3 at the back, but he played Bart in between myself and Tony Vaughan. Now, you couldn't get to bigger headers of the ball, and my style. I was head it, kick it. Tony Vaughan was head it, kick it. So very abrasive in play, and then you had the silky touches of Bartman alongside us, and he made it look easy. That we come off. I never forget. You can see the state of my nose. That's because heading the ball, heading the back of people's faces, heads. I don't know how many times that season I broke my nose, split my head open. Vaughan was the same, and then the Bartman walks off, nice white shorts, nice clean top, but he bagged 2, and I think he got something like 14 goals from the middle of a 3 at the back.
15 goals. There you go. He was top scorer as well.
Yeah, and that's because of me and Vaughan. I don't care what. He could have carried on playing for a few more years, Bartman, if with me and Vaughan alongside him. We just ended and kicked, and we complemented each other, which was important. You can have outstanding individuals in teams, but they don't complement the rest of the group. And that group, I think people probably may forget, we were top 4, top 5 all season that year. And I think we just dropped out at the end. I think we finished 7th last day of the season. We played Tranmere. We finished. So we were there or thereabouts all season to go back up, and if I'm being brutally honest, I think the lads were brutally honest. He had standout players. Alan Rodgers had a tough season with his knee injury, but he's a standout player for us. Chris Williams was. But we were a team of players that were honest, average probably at best. And I'm being polite to my old teammates. I really am. Yeah. But we just got the best out of each other. And that's what we were, say, 4th, 5th all season. I think we beat Burnley at 1.5-0 at home, and I think we went second, something like that. But Fulham, it was that year of Fulham, and Fulham were incredible that year.
Yeah, there was.
Really, I remember we pushed them close. I'm not sure if we beat them at Craven Cottage. We pushed them close. We may have got a draw. I think we lost at home. I gave the penalty. You lost
3-0 at the City ground, but I don't know what.
Yeah, I gave a penalty away. I brought Lee Clark down. I remember. So yeah, but they were incredible. They were a fantastic team. So yeah, it was a season where they were dominating everything. So it was them and then the rest. So for me, great, fantastic season.
Was that your best season? Was that your best season for Forest?
Yeah, it had to be. It was a season. It was the season where I played most of those games.
Yeah.
And I felt I just kind of fitted into the shirt. I felt comfortable at the club. Whereas at the Premier League, I know I wasn't a Premier League player. I know that, and I'm not silly, and I'm not daft enough to try and brag about it. So it was probably my level, the Championship. So it was a good season, and it was a good season for all types of things because we had really good camaraderie and still speak to those boys to this day.
So, like, as you know, David Platt, he left Nottingham Forest to join England on 23s. Paul Hart comes in, and what was your reaction when Platt left and Paul Hart come in?
I knew Paul as the guy who was very successful in the youth team, brought some incredible players over from Ireland, down from Scotland, Eugen Bopp from Germany. So just knew him as a very, very good youth team coach. And for whatever reason, he had his ways of thinking. And as senior players then, and I say senior, we're probably 26, 27. So probably, if you look at it in our prime, really, I think from what I gather from years gone by now, that I think it was more of a club decision as well as Paul's decision, that players had to move on. Financially, the club wasn't in a strongest place.
Chris Williams said exactly the same as you, Christian, saying exactly the same thing. I
think, of course, what everyone remember with David is that he spent £3.5 million on 3 Italians that didn't really work, and £3.5 million back then was a lot of money. Particularly in the Championship. So that's where probably David has had kind of his biggest amount of criticism for that. And that probably tarred the brush for the rest of us. And that £3.5 million wasn't well spent. So the club decided that they needed to do something with that. And the repercussions were senior players had to leave. Jono left, Tank left, Bartman left, and myself and Tony Vaughan of the brigade. Gary Jones left. I think Jonesy went to Barnsley. I think.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and then myself and Tony Vaughan left, and it wasn't the same place. And initially, my relationship with Paul was okay. I was involved in a couple of the squads. I played Norwich away, played a couple of games. Then I went on loan to Crystal Palace, but the relationship broke down with Paul, and it wasn't a very fruitful one. It was more dysfunctional than anything.
Okay.
Just didn't see eye to eye, and that happens.
What was the reason behind it?
Listen, I've got no issue with the player that took my place, a young Michael Dawson. I'm not going to argue there, okay? Yeah. So it's not a problem. I just think being told you're not good enough is fine by me. It's just the way it's the way that I was told. It was the way I was treated is the bit that's annoyed me and frustrated me. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't an innocent party in this, so I decided to play up and not very clever. And it was only going to be one winner, and it wasn't going to be me. But I was naive at the time, thinking that I could influence Paul, but I didn't behave in the most appropriate way. And I'm not dull enough to think of that. I know I didn't act appropriately, and I could have acted in a different way. I'm now a manager myself, and if a player had done that to me, I wouldn't be like it. But in fairness to Paul, I've learned from that relationship, and I've always said that I'll always treat the players that I work with the way that I would want to be treated myself, and that's not the way I wanted to be treated. I went through a divorce as well, and that wasn't great for me, but it wasn't helped with some of the comments that were made by the manager at the time. So it's gone. it's, you move on. I'm not bitter about it. And it was a painful experience, but a good experience because I've learned from that later down the line. So yeah, my relationship with Paul ended. I'd say I was on loan at Palace, a good time at Palace.
Yeah.
And it was inevitable. It was 2002. I wasn't even allowed to train with the first team. I trained with the kids. Yeah, the old training ground at down the Trent. There was a green wall. I was sent to train there on my own. I remember at the end of the season, it was the year that the lads got to the playoffs. Sheffield lost to Sheffield United.
Oh, that season, yeah.
Yeah, that was my last season, and boys did really well. In fairness, the boys were brilliant with me. They could see what was going on, but they try and make me feel part of it. I was moved out of the first team dressing room. I was moved into another dressing room.
Wow.
All of my own accord as well. It happens. It does happen. I wasn't the innocent victim here. But one thing that really did get to me was that end of season party, the club and Paul decided to take the players for a meal. Yeah. In one of the restaurants. I can't remember. I think it was a Japanese restaurant. I think it was in the centre of town. I can't remember. And Des Walker was telling all the players, meet at this time, meet at that time. We'll go here, here and here. And in fairness to Des, he was a bit embarrassed. He came up to me and said, look, you're not invited. You're not allowed. The gaffer doesn't want you anywhere near us.
Wow.
I said, you what? He went, no, he doesn't want you anywhere near us. I said, come on. I said, you're joking. He went, no. He said, he doesn't want you in town. You've got to stay away from town. He said he doesn't want. And he said he doesn't want the lads seeing you in town either. So you're not. So out of respect for the players, I stayed away. I stayed away. I moved kind of further out from Bingham. Then I moved out towards Belton Woods, out towards Grantham way, because my partner at the time she was a TV presenter, so she was working in Norwich. So it was easy to drive back and down the A1. So I just stayed up in the village I lived in, phoned the boys, but I thought, I'm not going to spoil their day. It's their day. I didn't get in the playoffs. They did. So yeah, isolated, but that's it. It happens. You could call it a form of bullying, but I'll leave that alone. It's not, it's gone. It happened. And I learned from it. It's a good experience, but something at the time that wasn't very nice, but I learned from it, and it's put me in good stead as a coach and as a person moving forward.
Like I said before, I talk about all things, Christian. Like you play 54 games. Do you wish that you could have done more, or do you think you could learn from other things from it? Yeah,
definitely. I loved the place. I bought my dog from just above Nottingham a few years ago, and just drove past some old haunts and some places. I got invited as a guest up to watch the Luton game last year, and I came out. It was the first time I actually stepped foot inside the stadium since I left in 2003. Got obviously my own things back here in Wales, my young family, or growing family, should I say. And I just loved the place. The city was phenomenal. People were brilliant to me. The people at the club were brilliant. I even remember and still thinking about when we used to go after training to the Trent End for our dinner. We used to have old Jerry used to work in the Italian restaurant. He used to cook us, and we used to call it chicken alla Jerry. Still think of all those little things. So it's good. The people were good to me. The village I lived in Bingham was lovely, and it's got a really good soft spot for Nottingham. So yes, in that way, I wish I had done more, but that's life. Unfortunately, I don't have regrets. Maybe if one regret is that I probably could have acted a little bit better in my relationship with Paul and been a bit more mature about it. I wasn't. I was young, naive, but then it was a learning process, and I've learned from that. But yeah, Nottingham's a city that I hold close to my heart, and just wish it was a bit closer. Or I lived a bit closer. I'd be there more often.
Right. So the questions, I put it out there yesterday, and this is my question, Christian, and I've said this to all the Forest ex-Forest players, and you mentioned Jono and Tank a lot, and as you know, there was actually a nightmare, especially away days. And I spoke to Chris Bob Williams the other day as well, and he said that them two got you. Was it away day against Chelsea? Was that true?
There was those two, and then it was me and Tony Vaughan. And me and Vaughan were bad, but those two just edged the limits. They really did, and they didn't suffer consequences. They just went until whatever you did, they would have to get the next one in. And I can't remember exactly what happened, but they had me numerous times. Rooms smashed up. Tell. Room smashed up. Bags chucked everywhere. Bed on the landing. But that's your own fault for not hiding your key. And they'd have to do some of that. But the worst one with Jono was horrific. we were in the Welsh squad together, and we got taken out to La Manga, and we were training out there, and he got bored. We had an afternoon off, and he got bored, and I got into the shower, and the doors to the shower were sliding doors, as I was supposed to pull in them. So the door was shut. He shut the doors, and he wrapped the dressing gown rope around the handle, so I couldn't pull the doors apart. Yeah. He left me in there for 12 hours, so I was in the bathroom for 12 hours.
No.
Couldn't get out, couldn't smash the doors down, left me, he wouldn't answer, wouldn't let me out. So I was stuck in there for 12 hours. About 10 or 12 hours. So I came out, he finally got out of the room when the maid came in the next morning. So I wanted to sleep, so I got into the bed, and he'd left, he'd done something. So I covered his bed full of toothpaste, ruined it, toothpaste all over aftershave, so he couldn't sleep in there. So he got back into the room, went to get into his bed, saw the mess, and jumped in next to me. And all of a sudden, I'm lying there, I'm thinking, a bit warm in here, isn't it? Getting warmer. My back's warm. And you can imagine what he's done. He's peed all up my back when I'm lying in bed.
No!
Yeah. So I was covered in him. He peed all over my back. I'll be careful how I say this, but yeah, he peed all over my back. And they were just the type of things that he used to get up to. You know, I still speak to him on the phone. Don't see him as much as I used to, but there's so many stories that we can have from that Forest group. Alan Rogers just as bad, going out shooting with those two. Jono trying to shoot Tank's mates with his shotgun. Just madness. We used to have night games at the City Ground, and it was that season we had that good run. Everyone would come back to my house because I live on my own. Yeah, and we used to have what's it called? Clothing, not fancy dress clothing. We used to dress up. Yeah. And then I used to live on a bit of an estate, and Nigel Jensen used to live not far from where I lived. Yeah. So we used to go in camouflage clothing and jump over all the gardens to get to Nigel Jensen's house, and then cause havoc. And then we'd get to Nigel Jensen, and me and Jono used to do it, and then we'd pull all Gemmo's kids' toys out onto the street and block the cul-de-sac off. And just silly things, you know. There was nothing dangerous. It was just misadventure, I thought, just an endeavour. Just we were young men who were playing football, enjoying the time of our lives, and trying not to hurt people. But yeah, some good classic times.
You mentioned about you and Tony Vaughan. Did you, Tony Vaughan? What did you two do? Yeah,
me and Vaughan, we would just be mad. Me and him. I still speak to Vaughan, although we haven't spoken for a little while. He was just a mad mank, an angry mad mank.
Angry.
He's an angry man, Tony Vaughan. Fight anyone over anything in a nice way. But you know, I used to go to his house. He used to live in Elston, so I used to go and see Vaughan. I'd travel from Bingham to Elston, just play pool, have a few beers, stay around his house, and say I was living on my own. Got to know his family, etc., etc. So yeah, we just used to get into just the silly little things, just daft things, really. Can't shed too much light on some of them, but yeah, daft things that were innocent. I've got a secure job. I can't sell those stories now.
Question from Thomas Newton, and this was more when you were at Swansea, and basically he said to me that a manager called Kevin Cousin. He got sacked at half time. Was you?
Kevin Cousin, yeah.
Yeah, was you involved with that situation? I don't know if you was.
Oh yeah, that story's an interesting. So the club, the then chairman Doug Sharp sold Swansea to this guy from Birmingham, and he brought in this Cradley Town youth team manager nobody had ever heard of, and he came in and he didn't have a clue. He pulled me to the front with the goalkeeper Roger Freestone and said to me, "Look, bearing in mind we're in Division 1 at the Vetch Field, hardly any money at the club. I'm going to offer you both new contracts, 5-year contracts, $3,000 a week, and Mercedes cars." I'm thinking, really? I'll have a bit of this. Yeah, of course I will. But it was all fabrication. It was all monopoly money. They didn't have any money at all. And we played Blackpool away, and we were, I think, 2-0 down at half time. So he was the manager, and he came in and he asked me, what do I think? Now, I was 20, 21. And you got senior players in the dressing room: Dave Penny, Keith Walker, Roger Freestone, John Cornforth, etc. And they're looking at him for some tactical advice. He had nothing. He was asking me for advice.
Was it?
Yeah, but the story goes apparently that me and Dave Penny took over the team talk, and he got the sack at half time. I certainly didn't take over any team talk. I just said, look, we're losing, we've got to do better. And some of the players offered some thoughts, and that was it. He went, off you go, back out. And that was his team talk. We lost 4-0 in the end.
Wow.
But He was, being polite. He was clueless.
Wow. Next question. This is from Lisa Fox, and this is a funny one. Can you remember on a Friday night at Nottingham nightclub Squares?
Where's Squares?
It's Nottingham Town Centre, Market Square. That's what she said. Something about can you remember Squares? It's where we got Market Square. It's on the side. Can you remember it?
Remember lots.
That's what all she said. Is, can you tell Christian? And this is what she said yesterday. Can you tell him? Can you remember any night at Squares?
Gotta be kidding. No, I can't. I can remember when I first went to Forest. It was the Black Orchid right out on the industrial estate.
Yeah.
Was it yeah. So yeah. I remember. Is that Black Orchid?
No. That's not Squares. Squares is Market. You got Market Square. You got you got the two lions.
Yeah.
It's on the sideways. So that you got the road and the other side, and something about you can't remember then, can you?
No, I can't. I can remember Black Orchid. I can remember some of the clubs in town. Faces. It used to be Faces. Yeah. Used to go Faces. I honestly don't remember. Apologies to whoever that is. But
Lisa
I'm sorry.
Fox.
I've no idea. Apologies.
Lisa, if you watch this, Lisa, he doesn't remember. So, Lisa, in the comments, tell me what happened. So, because you didn't remember.
I'm 46 in November. It's a long, long time ago.
Next one from Roger from your neck of the woods, Wales. Best player that you've played against?
It wouldn't be too hard to move away from that Premier League season. I managed to swap shirts with Alan Shearer that year. Okay. The 2-2 game we played against Liverpool. Michael Owen had just come back from the World Cup. He'd scored that infamous goal against Argentina. He was pretty special at the time. It's very fortunate. I was involved with the Welsh senior team on a few occasions, and Batistuta with Argentina, Riquelme with Argentina. So there were some special names amongst those lots, and it was the start of that season. I think where Marcel Dicey at Chelsea, there were some big names. So if I throw all those into the mix, and I think I'll let the viewers take a pick out of those who they think are the best. But there were some special names, and very privileged, and even at Forest with people like Colin Cooper, Pierre Van Hooydonk, Steve Stone, some special players. So if I could just throw those names in the mix and let people make a decision themselves.
Another question from James from Birmingham. Who was your inspiration as you played a centre back? Who was your inspiration to play there?
Inspiration of players. I think I was 6 foot as a kid, so I was always the tallest amongst the group. And I grew up playing rugby, and I love rugby, and it's still my favourite sport. And I was very fortunate to get to Welsh caps in rugby as under 16s. So I was probably the one that would always put my body on the line. And as a centre half, you kind of always sticking your head in where it shouldn't be. Yeah. Being at 6 foot, I wasn't blessed with pace, but I was quick enough. But I just kind of did that old-fashioned thing. And I'm from the valleys. I'm a valley boy, and I've got no airs and no graces. I've not got no ego. I'm a very principled and humble person. So that for me is what a centre half should be about. And anything with flair beyond that is an added bonus. So I think also I was naturally just going to end up playing there, and with my height, it afforded me to play there. So there was no real inspiration. My favourite player growing up was Ian Rush. I used to love Ian Rush, playing for Liverpool, but no real inspiration other than the fact that I think I was pigeonholed into that position, and that's where I moved. I was never going to be a right back. I was certainly not going to be a striker or a winger, and I didn't have the ability on the ball to play in midfield. So it was that, or maybe in goal.
Yeah. Who's the best manager that you've played with?
The worst is, but I'll answer the best.
The best.
I'll have to say Frank Burrows at Swansea City.
Okay.
Yeah, David Platt was inspirational from a perspective of what he brought to the game. His training methods, the way he dealt with senior players at Nottingham, the way he dealt with me, brilliant. But Frank Burrows at Swansea City, an uncompromising centre half in his day, but somebody that just got the best out of me. I was 16, 17, and he the way he spoke, he was hard but firm. And and he instilled values and beliefs in me. And that's something I always tried to put into my game. And when people would say to me when I played, "You're crap, you are." Okay, yeah, I am. I may well be, but all I'm going to do is give my best. And all if I can give is what I've got, then that's what I've got. And that's been since I've retired as well. You know, when I went into my studies, when I retired, I wanted to become a PE teacher. I didn't. I ended up staying there in university, and I got the best out of my academic ability. And 10 years after retiring, I become a doctor because of hard work, and that's what I've always done in my life, is worked hard and been humble, and got the best out of my ability, and so I thank Frank Burrows for that.
You said the worst manager. I think you've already mentioned the worst manager, haven't you? You've already mentioned it already.
Out of politeness for that individual, I will not repeat the name. I think that person was a good coach. I think he was a very good coach, very, very good coach. But as a manager, there's a lot left to be desired.
You don't need to say it. Say no more. But quite a lot of people have asked this question, because like you're still in football, aren't you? And are you, what team are you managing so far? Yeah.
So again, trying to give you a little story around it. When I retired, I was never ever going to become somebody who could do anything with their hands, DIY. I can't change a plug. I'm useless. But I always liked reading books. I was pretty good at school, so I wanted to go back to university, which is what I did. And I went back to university, did a degree, and ended up doing a master's degree. And in that process of doing a master's degree at the university that I work at now, we have a fantastic sporting program. And one of the sporting programs is football. So I took over the football team there, who were in Welsh Division 3, which is a bit of back of beyond of what football should normally look like. Yeah. And I was a director of football and first team manager. And in the last 12 years, I've taken them from Division 3 of Welsh football to 18 months ago qualifying for Europe. We played in the Europa League. So I'm manager of Cardiff Met FC, and I'm a lecturer at the university. So we're a student-based team. And we're a student-based team, and taking us from the depths of Welsh football, into the Welsh Premier League, which allows us to play in Europe. Being British University champions 3 times, actually won our second title at Nottingham University on the very same day that I'd signed for Forest. Deadline, but so there was something there. So yeah, I'm still managing. I enjoy it, and I've got my pro license. I've done all my coaching badges, but I've also got the academic side as well that I really, really enjoy.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So managing Cardiff Met, and it's enjoyable. I've got another 18 months to go. I'm going to call it a day in 18 months after 13 years in charge. I've got 3 kids of 11, 12 and 13 that need more of my time. So I'll spend more time with them then.
Do you, last question, do you miss playing on the pitch?
We had a practice match. Obviously with COVID, we've gone back to playing because our leagues allowed us to start playing again. And we had a practice match a few weeks back, and I had to step into the play in our game, and I don't miss it at all.
There you are.
I woke up the next morning aching. I've got less hair than I ever used to have.
You can tell.
I got a few stone patted. More than I used to carry. I was 12 stone 2 when I played. I dread to think what I am now, but I do miss the camaraderie. The football, what I do now, keeps me engaged with the game. But I do miss those old days. They were good days and special days. So you value them for the right reasons. I would like to get back into the game in a professional capacity. I'm not sure when that will be, if it ever will happen. But I'm satisfied with what I had in my career. Could have been a little bit better, but I'm satisfied with what I had.
That's grand. So people, as you know, this is Christian Edwards. He played 54 games and 3 goals. But Christian, it's been fantastic for taking the opportunity to come on my channel. But yeah, you have anything to say for Nottingham Forest fans?
Good luck for the rest of the season. Hopefully the Forest fans and then the team can get back into the Premier League where it deserves to be. I've been close a couple of seasons, but also thank you for my time when I was there all those years ago. You were good to me, and thank you very much.
Yeah, but like I said, people, this is Christian Edwards, and if you did enjoy this interview, please do hit the subscribe button, like if you're new. And Christian, like I said, it's been a pleasure for coming on DoreOnTour.
Cheers. Thank you very much, Ben. Take care.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Bye-bye.